From the nation's capital, Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce. A weekly discussion about the federal issues most important to Nevada. And now, from Washington, D.C., here's Marilee Joyce.
Good day to you. I'm Marilee Joyce. This is Eye on Washington, the only statewide Nevada news program produced in Washington, D.C. Every week, Eye on Washington takes you straight to Capitol Hill for a discussion with Nevada's delegation and other leaders about the federal matters that matter to you. Today's topic, the doctor is not in. What's happening on Capitol Hill to address the severe doctor shortage in the Silver State? Well, my guest today is going to tell us what that is. He is Nevada U.S. Congressman and Dr. Joe Heck. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Marilee.
Nevada, as measured by the number of physicians for every 100,000 residents, is desperately short on both generalists and specialists. And today on Eye on Washington, we'll find out how serious the doctor crisis is in Nevada. We'll learn the connection between in-state residency programs and the likelihood of those residents remaining in the state to practice medicine. And we'll ask my guest why he says addressing Nevada's doctor shortage might be Nevada's top healthcare challenge today. Nevada isn't just short of doctors, it is on life support for all states in the District of Columbia. Nevada ranks 46th lowest in the country for family practice doctors, 46th lowest for pediatricians, number 51 for orthopedic surgeons. The state is 48th for ophthalmologists, 40th for OBGYNs, 50th for registered nurses. All this according to researchers at the University of Nevada School of Medicine. Now, you've introduced a bill that might be just what the doctor ordered, sorry for all the puns, to help Nevada's greatly increase the number of those physicians. When did you start getting alarmed enough? I want to start with that.
Well, I was alarmed when I first moved to Nevada back in 1992 to start practice myself, because back then the joke was when somebody said, where do you go for health care in Las Vegas? The answer was to McCarran, because everybody would leave the state. And so we've always been behind the curve in having enough doctors and healthcare providers to meet the population. But certainly when you see the explosive growth in Nevada from 2000 to 2010, and the population boomed, but the physician population did not. And now we're seeing the ramifications of that, where a lot of people just can't get access to a physician.
You know, the list of specialties I mentioned, serious shortages. And when you're talking family doctors, baby doctors, gynecologists, your eye doctor, it's a huge impact on Nevadans and other states with shortages, but it's really a huge impact on your well-being, isn't it?
Certainly, and you know, the Affordable Care Act increased access to health insurance, but what we learned is getting health insurance doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get health care. And so now there are more people potentially with health insurance policies, but they're still having a hard time getting an appointment to see a practitioner because of the shortage, because of the mismatch between the population and the specialties that are needed in Nevada.
The better ones for Nevada include anesthesiologies at number 21 and plastic surgery at 27, but those aren't your basic services. So Congressman and Dr. Heck, really help us, we have a statewide audience listening to you right now. Help us understand how this leads to poor health in Nevada in general.
Sure. Well, the idea is to have preventive health care so that you don't get ill, that you don't run up the astronomical health care bills. And in order to have preventive health care, you've got to have a family physician, somebody that you see on a routine basis just for well checks, or when you have a small problem to go get checked out before it becomes a bigger problem. And because we have such a shortage of primary care physicians in Nevada, people are having a difficult time in getting that appointment. And what do? They go to the emergency department for every little ache and pain, where they may get that ache or pain taken care of, but they don't get the follow-up care that they need, or they don't get plugged into what we call a medical home, somebody who's going to follow them and all of their medical problems across the spectrum. Sure. And that's what we're trying to fix now with the legislation that we've introduced. And
we are going to look at that legislation in the next segment. But, you know, I want to mention that this is a big enough deal that Dr. Robert Waugh, he's the head of the American Medical Association, he's really playing an active role here. He even mentioned you by name in a recent statement. He was praising you for your focus on getting more doctors, particularly specialists, to underserved areas. What's that partnership like? You're working, a doctor working right with the AMA itself. Well, how are you working together to solve this?
Well, we certainly understand the issues. Myself, from having been an emergency department physician and trying to refer a patient that I saw out to a primary care doctor, and the obstacles that I faced. And certainly as the American Medical Association or the American Osteopathic Association, the representative organizations for physicians across the country, they understand this as well. And there's a big grassroots effort through both associations as well as on Capitol Hill to address this critical need.
What is the role of Congress in meeting doctor shortage, solving the doctor shortage problem?
Residency programs are primarily funded through Medicare dollars. And so it's a taxpayer funding of residency programs. And so Congress has a very big role in helping to ensure that residency programs remain funded at baseline, but also have the money necessary to grow and create more doctors.
Okay. And just ahead, if you study in Nevada, you'll stay in Nevada. That's my guess, hope anyway. Let's learn Nevada's legislation to get more doctors practicing in the state right after this.
You're watching Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce. Brought to you by Caesars Entertainment, the Las Vegas Sands Corporation, the Regional Transportation Commission of Washoe County, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, Boyd Gaming, Rogich Communications Group, and by Jim Marsh Automotive.
I got my own iPod Touch and use my dad's login to get on gambling sites. Poker is the best, but I'm losing a lot. Since I'm too young to play, they're not allowed to keep the money and my dad won't find out. That's right, isn't it?
Want more federal news that affects Nevada, its businesses, and its residents? Then you need to subscribe to Nevada's Washington Watch newsletter, your sole source of online news direct from Washington, D.C. Visit joycecommunications.com and subscribe today.
All of us at Caesars Entertainment have something we want to say.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly.
We don't want you to gamble if you've had too much to drink.
You shouldn't gamble if you're lonely or depressed.
And if you're under 21, you're not allowed to play.
No, no, no.
No matter which of our casinos you come to, our message is always the same.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly. We know you're coming to our casinos to have a good time, and we always want you to leave feeling like you did.
And welcome back to Eye on Washington, our discussion of Nevada's severe doctor shortage and what my guest is doing to increase the number of physicians taking care of your health care needs. And he is my guest today, Nevada U.S. Congressman Joe Heck. Well, Governor Sandoval is getting a lot of support for his $10 million proposal for residency training for medical school graduates. And maybe the most important support is what my guest is doing here on Washington, D.C. Congressman and Dr. Heck, who serves on the GOP Doctors Caucus, has introduced legislation that creates a federal grant program for states to create new residency programs or increase slots in existing ones. He introduced his Creating Access to Residency Education, or CARE Act, alongside Florida U.S. Congresswoman Kathy Castor. Florida is another state facing big physician shortages. Now, the CARE Act would create a $25 million federal grant program for states to create new residency programs or to increase those slots. My guest is betting on a 2013 study by the American Medical Colleges that says 47.4% of doctors nationwide stay or return to practice in the hospital where they complete their residency. So Congressman Heck says that expanding residency programs or increasing slots in existing ones is critical to addressing access to care gaps for states like Nevada and Florida. Here's what he said this spring, quote, increasing federal grant opportunities so states can expand current residency programs or create new ones will help underserved states train and retain new doctors. So we're going to fully detail the bill in our next segment, but For this segment, what's the connection between training and staying?
Sure. So a lot of people just assume that a medical student, once they graduate, will stay in the area where they went to medical school, but that's really not the case. It's where they complete their residency training program. And the numbers spell it out in Nevada. We're 45th in the nation in overall number of doctors per capita, but 46th in the nation in the number of residency programs. We're 21st in the nation in the number of medical students. And over the last decade, from 2000 to 2010, we were actually #1 in medical student growth in the country, primarily due to the opening of Touro University in Henderson.
But then they all leave?
Once they graduate medical school, they have to leave the state for their residency program. And once they do that, they've developed relationships in the area where they did their training with other physicians, with other hospitals. And so it's natural for them to want to stay in that area to actually open their practice. It's very difficult to recruit somebody back to where they went to medical school or back to their home state if they've had to leave to do their residency. And so while we have the University of Nevada School of Medicine up in Reno, we have Touro University down in Henderson, UNLV looking to open up a medical school, Roseman University, the health sciences, looking to open up another medical school in Las Vegas. Until we get more residency programs, we'll graduate medical students, but we won't get more doctors.
Does the CARE Act, does it address specialties in general? Is there special consideration or focus on those most short, or is it kind of up to the student? How does that work?
It does focus primarily on, it gives more money to those that are growing or starting primary care residency slots. As was mentioned in the preceding segment, the real shortage is in primary care. And so the way the program works is that it's a matching program. If you're growing or starting a primary care residency, the grant will give you 2/3 to your 1/3 match. If it's any other specialty, it'll be a 50-50 split.
Oh. What's the House Doctor Caucus?
So the House Doctor Caucus is made up of the healthcare practitioners within the Republican House.
Are you mostly doctors? Are there nurses and other?
Mostly doctors, but we now have 2 dentists, we have nurses, we have a psychologist, we have a podiatrist. So it's it's a multi-specialty group. We can take care of any problem that happens on the House floor.
That's where to get sick.
And we get together to talk about those healthcare related issues that are affecting our nation and how we can influence the debate and come up with solutions in the House of Representatives.
So what are some of its efforts other than, well, the CARE Act is probably the biggest right now.
Well, probably the biggest win that we just had was passing the Sustainable Growth Rate Repeal Bill, which passed 2 weeks ago, which changes the way that Medicare is reimbursed to physicians, because we saw that doctors were unwilling to grow their Medicare practice or take new Medicare patients because of issues with reimbursement. It's been a 17-year issue that we finally got fixed just 2 weeks ago.
You know, can I just say to our statewide audience, this is exciting to hear, because a lot of times I think people just think, oh, caucuses, you know, they don't really understand it. What are they doing? And stuff. This is a caucus, not that they're all not fabulous, but this is really having some big influences when you're talking about Medicare. I mean, and the CARE Act.
Sure.
And
well, when you look at it, again, it's a healthcare professionals. We're all type A personalities, so we don't get together to sit around like in the doctor's dining room and talk. We want to get something done.
Is there something you see, your bill, is it something you see becoming law this year? Is the $25 million, is that a sticking point at all? Are you having a lot of support?
We are getting a lot of support, and right now there's also another bill moving called the 21st Century Cures Act through the Energy and Commerce Committee, and once they finish with that bill, which should be shortly, they then plan to move to address graduate medical education, and we're hoping that our bill is one of those pieces of the puzzle that they will use.
You know, quickly, we are out of time for this statement, but I do want to point out you're personally pushing also for teaching hospitals to partner, for example, with local governments, community health centers, local health departments for a portion of that cost.
Correct. So the grant program is a matching grant. So whatever the teaching hospital is that's going to have the program, they have to come up with either 1/3 or 50% of the money. And the easiest place for them to go, as we can see from our own governor's budget proposal, is the state or local government.
Okay. And after this quick break, it's not enough just to open new medical schools. What does my guest say makes a student want to remain in Nevada? He'll tell us next.
Nevada's direct link to Capitol Hill. Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce. The only statewide Nevada news show based in Washington, D.C. All the top federal matters that matter most to Nevadans. Marilee talks with our congressional delegation and other leaders about the federal news you need to know. Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce. Nevada's Eye on Capitol Hill.
I got my own iPod Touch and used my dad's login to get on gambling sites. Poker is the best, but I'm losing a lot. Since I'm too young to play, they're not allowed to keep the money and my dad won't find out. That's right, isn't it?
All of us at Caesars Entertainment have something we want to say.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly.
We don't want you to gamble if you've had too much to drink.
You shouldn't gamble if you're lonely or depressed.
And if you're under 21, you're not allowed to play.
No, no, no.
No matter which of our casinos you come to, our message is always the same.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly.
We know you're coming to our casinos to have a good time, and we always want you to leave feeling like you did.
I never felt all that special. But in the wake of an earthquake, we can all do something. When donating goods, it's hard to know what's needed. So now it's my turn to help. Aid workers can spend me locally, where I can help save lives. Someone is doing better because of me. Together, we made that happen.
I got my own iPod Touch and use my dad's login to get on gambling sites. Poker is the best, but I'm losing a lot. Since I'm too young to play, they're not allowed to keep the money and my dad won't find out. That's right, isn't it?
And welcome back to Eye on Washington, our discussion of Nevada's big doctor shortage and what my guest is doing to improve things. We've been visiting with Nevada U.S. Congressman Joe Heck. Well, clearly it takes an emergency doctor to recognize and act on an emergency doctor shortage situation. So now you know the what. The what is creating access to residency education. We know what it is, but now let's ponder the why. Why is it different from other efforts to solve doctor shortages, and why would it be successful in keeping residents in Nevada? Well, a recent report says more students from UNR's 2015 medical school graduating class are headed to facilities in California than Nevada. And 32% of that class will leave Nevada for programs the state doesn't even offer, like dermatology, neurology, and pathology. Well, Congressman Heck's bill would create a $25 million federal grant program for states to create residency programs or increase slots in existing ones. The grant would be administered by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. The funds would go to teaching hospitals and accredited graduate medical education training programs in states with fewer than 25 medical residents per 100,000 residents. And Congressman, your partner in this, Rep. Castor, she put it well, saying, quote, "Doctors most often practice where they train, not where they attend medical school. Florida needs more residency slots. Otherwise, the state will pay to educate, but not retain the next generation of doctors." And that's the case in Nevada, of course, as well.
It certainly is. Certainly when you look at the publicly funded medical school, like the School of Medicine up in Reno, or potentially the new UNLV Medical School, that's taxpayer money that's helping to subsidize the cost of that education. And so you get someone who goes to school there with a taxpayer investment, but then they don't have the ability to train in Nevada after they graduate. They go out of state, they don't come back. The state gets no return on that investment. And the reason why we picked states with fewer than 25 residency slots per 100,000 is that the national average right now is about 26.7 residents per 100,000. Nevada is at 10.7, more than half below what the national average is.
Well, I actually read the average is 37, so maybe it's even worse. But
yeah, no, so we have a critical shortage across all specialties, especially in primary care. And we want to make sure that we provide a top-notch opportunity for those that graduate medical school to complete their residency or even complete fellowships, which is follow-on training post-residency in subspecialties, to stay in Nevada and take care of Nevadans.
You know, in happier news, while we're at the number, we're at the near the bottom for number of doctors, it says the state does rank 25th for the best climate for doctors. So there's that at least.
Well, so
there are benefits of practicing in Nevada.
There certainly are. The problem is we just can't get enough doctors to come. And part of that also goes back to some of the issues that physicians face when moving to Nevada and trying to get their license in Nevada, which is a very difficult licensing requirement. So it's almost a disincentive for folks to want to relocate to Nevada. But the best way to actually increase the pool of physicians that are taking care of Nevadans is to train them in Nevada.
You know, we talked a bit about your House Doctor Caucus, and the role of a caucus, of course, is to educate fellow members. There seems to be a public perception that just building buildings, the brick and mortars, building more medical schools and programs, of course, equals more doctors, but you found that's certainly not the case, which is the reason for your bill. As you work to explain this to your colleagues, are they surprised that just brick and mortar doesn't equal more doctors staying where they are?
Most of them are, because they just think that you graduate medical school with your medical degree and you're ready to hang out a shingle and go to practice. And until we say, for somebody who's going into orthopedic surgery, that's another 5 to 6 years post medical school. You're going into neurosurgery, that's another 6 to 8 years post medical school. And that person's not going to go into practice until they complete their residency. And so it's critical. It's truly critical to the health of Nevada and other states that have critical health care shortages that they have the opportunity to train folks.
Otherwise,
in their own state.
you start really establishing a home. You might get married and start a family or what have you, wherever you're doing your residency, and
right, and that's why
that's
why we see the numbers so much higher for doctors staying in the location where they complete their training, their residency training, to open practice, than returning to where they went to medical school.
Dr. Mitchell Foreman of Touro University, he's a big fan of your bill, and I know you met with him at an event there this spring, and he praised your bill as, quote, a creative attempt to expand medical education. So you've shared how you're kind of educating your colleagues here. How are you working with medical school and other medical school or other medical leaders in Nevada to really change things and kind of get the word out about your bill?
Certainly, we had a very large event over at Touro University in Henderson a few weeks ago to talk about the bill with representatives from all of the current medical schools as well as the potential future medical schools, as well as the teaching hospitals, to let them know of the potential opportunity to have this matching grant money to help grow their residency slots.
We're almost out of time for this segment, but you've said many times in the press that this is one of the most critical health challenges in the nation today, and especially in states like Nevada. Without getting dramatic, if your bill doesn't pass, what's the long and near, short and long-term situation in Nevada?
Sure. Well, what we see is continued difficulty in patients getting access to quality health care in a timely manner. And the longer it takes you to take care of that small problem, the more likelihood it's going to become a bigger problem, more costly, not just in dollars, but also in your health.
Okay. And just ahead, heads up, Jason A. of Sparks. I'm about to read your letter to the congressman right here. Our mailbag segment comes up next.
All of us at Caesars Entertainment have something we want to say.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly.
We don't want you to gamble if you've had too much to drink.
You shouldn't gamble if you're lonely or depressed.
And if you're under 21, you're not allowed to play.
No, no, no.
No matter which of our casinos you come to, our message is always the same.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly. We know you're coming to our casinos to have a good time, and we always want you to leave feeling like you did.
Nevada's direct link to Capitol Hill. Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce. The only statewide Nevada news show based in Washington, D.C. All the top federal matters that matter most to Nevadans. Marilee talks with our congressional delegation and other leaders about the federal news you need to know. Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce. Nevada's Eye on Capitol Hill.
I got my own iPod Touch and use my dad's login to get on gambling sites. Poker is the best, but I'm losing a lot. Since I'm too young to play, they're not allowed to keep the money and my dad won't find out. That's right, isn't it?
Nevada Humane Society save the lives of orphan kittens by becoming a foster care volunteer. Over 2,000 kittens a year need temporary care.
These kittens need food and personal attention until they're old enough for adoption. Foster care is fun, rewarding, and truly saves lives.
I love fostering. I have fostered almost 50 kittens so far, and it is so rewarding.
If you can foster kittens for a few weeks, we can find them homes for life. To learn how you can become a foster care volunteer, call or visit Nevada Humane Society.
Want more federal news that affects Nevada, its businesses, and its residents? Then you need to subscribe to Nevada's Washington Watch newsletter, your sole source of online news direct from Washington, D.C. Visit joycecommunications.com and subscribe today.
And we are back with our closing segment of Eye on Washington. It is our mailbag segment. In this segment, we tell you about an issue that the Congressional Mailbag page of Joyce Communications website's been getting a lot of correspondence about. We read one of your letters right here on the air, and we invite our guests to respond to you. And Congressman, we have a letter for you in our mailbox about the economy, which of course is still a big issue in Nevada. It is from Jason A. of Sparks, Nevada. He writes us, "Dear Congressman Heck, economists warn that the national debt is not sustainable. What is Congress's plan to address the issues that will arise due to coming increases in non-discretionary spending?" What do you say to Jason?
Yeah, Jason, that's a great question. And certainly we see the national debt continuing to grow despite decreases in discretionary spending over the last 5 years. And why does the debt continue to grow? It's because of the non-discretionary spending, what's commonly called the entitlement programs. The largest 4 drivers of our debt are Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and the interest on our debt. And so while we've taken steps to decrease discretionary spending, until there's the political will to actually go in and look at those other programs, we will continue to see a spiraling debt. Now, one of the things that the House just did in passing its budget resolution is call for a budget that will balance in 10 years. So we're serious about taking those steps necessary to get our fiscal house in order, contain our spending, make sure that those vital programs are solvent into the out years for those that are going to rely on them, but make sure that we don't put ourselves at risk by spending more than we take in, just like folks at home who really can't spend more than they take in, sitting around the kitchen table at night trying to determine what bills they're going to pay and not pay. Congress has got to do the same thing. And the way to do that is to have the political will to go into those programs that are the 4 largest drivers of our debt and make those changes necessary for the future.
When you say the 4 largest drivers of our debt, address that if you will, and tell us what. I think a lot of us who are not in Congress, we look at, when you mention political will, there seems to be a fear that it's going to affect, elections, opinions, et cetera. But everyone's willing to say this needs to be done, and then it's not. We don't see the programs change. Well,
it's true, and as I mentioned, so Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, interest on our debt, and in one of the prior segments we talked about some changes recently made to the Sustainable Growth Rate, which is a Medicare program, and in that we actually made some minor changes to Medicare for the first time in over a decade. And so we need to be able to go in and make more changes in order to make those programs more solvent and to decrease the amount that we spend, thus decreasing our debt.
I think we should have you on a whole show just about the whole spending, the whole non-discretionary, etc. Thanks for being here today on both these topics. You can send a letter to one of Nevada's senators or House members. Go to our website, joycecommunications.com. Check out more federal issues that impact Nevada while you're there. Like us on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter. Check out any Eye on Washington shows you may have missed on YouTube. Thanks for joining us on Eye on Washington today. I'm Marilee Joyce in Washington, D.C. Have a good day.